The Sword Art Online experience in 2024 is a sprawling beast encompassing several seasons of anime, multiple video games, at least one board game, numerous light novels, countless memes, and one very infamous YouTube parody series. Now, I've only seen the anime up through the Phantom Bullet arc, but this year I want to go way back to where Sword Art began and read through all the available light novels of the main series. 27 volumes as of the day that I'm writing this. Along the way, I want to examine the plot beats and the various elements of the stories. Think of this less like a series of reviews and more like a bunch of observations with a few scalding hot takes thrown in there. And the first hot take, right off the bat, is that the first book is good. Like, shockingly good. For those of you who have been living under a rock, the premise of this series is that full dive VR technology has been created. Picture our current VR technology, but the helmet directly interfaces with the user's brain, thereby encompassing all of the senses and also making it so that the user can move freely through a virtual world without actually moving from their bed. This technology is used to create a massively multiplayer online role-playing game called Sword Art Online. Unbeknownst to the 10,000 players who log into the game on day one, the mad genius developer of the game, Akihiko Kayaba, has actually created this world of Aincrad to be a death game. The logout option has been disabled, and I'm going to say the thing. If you die in the game, you die in real life. The only way for the players trapped in Aincrad to escape is for one or more of them to actually beat the final boss of the game. Now, this arc is actually wrapped up in the very first volume, but don't worry, we'll be coming back to this world again in future side stories. The fact is, this first book is really entertaining. The pacing is good, the world building is done really well, and everything here is fairly believable. Let's not forget that Palmer Luckey tried to do this for real with the Oculus Rift. The death game plot device raises the stakes while providing a hook that, even all these years later, is still pretty darn compelling. Even the love story between the main character Kirito and Asuna is developed fairly decently. Reading this book, I was able to tell myself, yes, this series is going to be an excellent adventure that will definitely not go completely off the rails. It did, in fact, go completely off the rails, starting pretty much with book 2. Look, when I say that it goes off the rails, what I mean is that it abandons the tighter pacing and the more grounded narrative for, let's be honest, it's pure waifu bait at this point. I'm not saying it's bad, just that looking at what the public perception of the series is now, and looking at the actual first light novel, they're worlds apart. And the series begins to shift towards that starting in book 2, which is comprised of 4 short stories set during the events of book 1. There are very few women in Aincrad due to the fact that the player base for these kinds of things is decidedly male. But somehow, pretty much every single woman that Kirito meets falls in love with him. Book 2 introduces a couple of these characters that will become staples in future books, Silica and Lisbeth, each in their own story. It also introduces Yui, a mysterious young girl who Kirito and Asuna discover on the 22nd floor of Aincrad, and it closes with a story about Sachi, the only girl Kirito ever met who didn't fall in love with him. And so, of course, she died. Okay, but hear me out. These stories do start the trend of the waifuization of Sword Art Online. But you know what? They're still really well written. From the vantage point of 2024, we can roll our eyes at Kirito, the man that no woman can resist, and his ridiculously expansive harem. But Reki Kawahara actually knows his way around a word processor, which is to say that he writes prose compelling enough to convince me that, yeah, it makes perfect sense that the tough blacksmith girl who kept all other male players at arm's length went on one quest with Kirito and was ready to confess her love. Bottom line here, I guess, is that if you approach this series knowing what it is, it's still very possible to have a great time with it. Say what you will about it, it's entertaining and it's well written. Oh, and as a bonus, the Aincrad events take place mostly in 2023 and 2024, so with the game ending in November 2024. It's a good year to read these light novels. I do hope you'll join me for the next video discussing books 3 and 4, but mostly just discussing Best Girl Suguha. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.